If you're passionate about transforming retail operations and improving performance, plus you're accountable for key change projects and programs in your company, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Retail Transformation Show with me, Oliver Banks. Welcome to the Retail Transformation Show. I'm Oliver Banks and I'm delighted to be joining you today. Now, when we're talking about retail transformation, often technology is not far away from that conversation. It's technology that has been responsible for turning our lives into our current digitally enabled lives. Technology has enabled e-commerce. Technology has enabled so many different productivity savings, different customer experiences. And sometimes it feels like we're just getting started with the whole technology opportunity. With things like AI and robotics, I think we could see some really massive changes, all driven through technology. So on this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by two members of the team at Ascential, who are busily getting ready for Tech, which is Europe's largest festival of digital commerce, and looking at the role that technology plays in retail and retail transformation. So I'm joined by Poppie Mickleburgh, Events Director at Retail Week, and Rebecca Morrison, who is Content Manager for Tech. I really enjoyed this conversation, diving into all sorts of challenges that retail is facing and some of the opportunities that technology can present. Show notes from today's episode are available at ob&co.uk/47. And as you'll hear in the conversation, there are a few different concepts that we talk about, and I'm including a few of those videos over on those show notes page. So if you do want to go a little bit deeper into some of the ideas that we are talking about, head over to that show notes page, ob&co.uk/47. And whilst you're over there, why not sign up for my weekly retail transformation briefings, which give you the insight and intel that you need around the world of retail transformation. But without further ado, let's get into this conversation with Poppie Mickleburgh and Rebecca Morrison. Here we go. I'm very lucky to be joined by two amazing guests today. Firstly, Poppie Mickleburgh, welcome back.
Thank you.
To the Retail Transformation Show.
Delighted to be back.
You were back in episode 22 when we were just about to go into Retail Week Live, so you were sharing some of the insights there.
I was.
So it's great to have you back. You're
Thank
the
you.
Events Director here at Retail Week, and it's an exciting time coming up to Tech, which is Europe's largest festival of digital commerce?
Absolutely, it is, yeah.
Super. Well, thank you for joining us today, Poppie. And we're also joined by Rebecca Morrison. Rebecca, welcome to the Retail Transformation Show.
Thank you, Oliver.
Your first time. You're Content Director for Tech.
Yep.
Exciting time, right?
Very exciting. Things are heating up now in the final 3 weeks to go before the event. So yes, very exciting.
Super. Well, I'm really excited about this conversation because transformation is what we talk about here, right? And technology is such an important part of transformation. It's enabling so many changes in our retail world and our lives as people, as consumers as well. So I'm keen to dive into this with you a whole lot more. And I suppose the first big, hairy challenge that we're going to come up against is that life in retail is tough right now.
It is.
No one's going to be surprised by that.
No.
But tech can help, right? What are the biggest challenges facing retailers right now where tech is perhaps the answer, or tech could be the answer?
So I think, the biggest kind of challenge that I've been hearing in conversations that I've had with, C-suite and kind of leaders in companies across the digital commerce ecosystem is talent. It's a massive, massive one. I think it's not just in retail, it's across all industries, but they are all drinking essentially from the same tech talent pool, which isn't huge. And obviously with the speed of acceleration of how tech is evolving so quickly as well, even that talent pool, it needs to, first of all, grow, but also it needs to be constantly innovating and kind of preparing for the next wave as well. So there's a massive challenge with retailers there.
I think that's a really interesting point, because when you think about that talent piece, certainly when I was at school, I was doing old school subjects that was preparing me for an old school world, not our current digitally enabled world. Whereas I think my son, who's 7 now, he's very adept at programming and these sort of tech things that, frankly, would have he's learning how to touch type, and it's like, he's 7.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting change that has happened but hasn't come to fruition yet. How do we bridge that gap in the meantime before those youngsters, the sort of, I guess, the Gen Alphas, come up to the workforce?
I've actually got something a bit maybe controversial to kind of put a spin on that, what you just said. So I did hear a speaker, one of the keynote speakers at World Retail Congress back in April.
Yeah.
And he said something really interesting. So his kind of take on this was that as, AI is developing and machine learning, etc., is getting so advanced and so sophisticated, actually his advice to his friends who have kids, in school looking to pick their their subject to study at uni, he's actually saying to them, you should be going and studying, arts, you should be going to study history, you should be going to study languages, literature, things that these machines cannot, things that are very nuanced, that these machines can't learn, because inevitably humans have to be able to have a point of difference in the workforce. And I think that's something we're going to see as well. Humans and machines working together, but also humans having roles where their kind of human abilities to feel and kind of be sensitive and all these nuanced things that come with, I guess, traditional kind of arts type subjects are going to be really kind of necessary. So
that's really interesting. It makes me, I suppose, bringing it back to retail, makes me think of Amazon 4-star. Now, Amazon, obviously very clever company, but they've come under a bit of flack for their 4-star store where they're curating products that have been rated 4 stars.
Yeah.
And it feels a bit soulless, a bit of a jumble sale. It doesn't have that art of retail, that sort of
the kind of customer experience,
the customer experience, and the sort of the art of really curating a range and presenting it in a sexy way. And I suppose that's that blend of intelligence, computer intelligence, and using our tech tools to put us forward one way, but then adding in our experience, our background, our feelings, emotions into it.
I think as well, we're seeing a real shift of moving to partnerships between retail companies and tech companies, and actually everyone going back to what they're really great at. And I think for a while you saw retailers trying to build all of that digital talent in-house and, trying to build all the technology. And actually I think A, it was slowing them down, and B, often it meant that they were forgetting what they were great at. So whether or not they trade on really great price, really great experience, whatever it is. And I think we're seeing more of the ecosystem coming together and these strategic partnerships being formed in order for those retailers to drive themselves forward. Because why wouldn't you partner with a company that makes you great at AI? Why wouldn't you partner with a company that will help you with your automation? And it then saves you having to build it in-house, and then you only need a smaller amount of that tech talent to oversee it and to make sure that it's great. And I think that's what's really exciting, is actually the retail technology sector or ecosystem is changing to be kind of a bit more equal, and that change from sort of supplier-retailer relationship to much more partnership, and actually together everyone will drive things a lot forward. And I think we will see that kind of transformation increase as those partnerships become more kind of, I guess, more common.
Absolutely, and you can suddenly add a bit of rocket fuel into it.
Yeah.
So thinking about, obviously talent is a key element, thinking about some of the other challenges facing retailers where tech could help or support. Any other thoughts?
So I think, it's no secret that obviously Amazon has massively changed what customers expect. I mean, customers now, whether they're shopping on Amazon, whether they're shopping on any other website, if they order something today, they basically expect it yesterday, right? And that's because of Amazon. They've kind of heightened these customer expectations. So I think other retailers, in order to kind of keep up with that, they've got a massive challenge in meeting these really demanding expectations. So I think loads of conversations that I've had, supply chain is one area that I think tech has the kind of ability to really transform. And I think within supply chain, a particular part of that is final mile. So getting whatever it is that's been ordered from the warehouse to a customer in the most efficient, cost-efficient way, the most customer-centric way as well. So I think there's huge kind of potential for your competitive advantage to be had if you are using the right technology there, partnering with the right people there, and just really kind of ensuring that you're at the top of the game there. So I think that's a really interesting one to look at as well.
And evolving so much, I think we're going to see some massive changes. My personal feeling is that whole distribution last mile piece, that's the next big area to be massively disruptive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Over the next couple of years or so.
Yeah.
So
we've been having some really interesting conversations, and one of the things that I'm quite excited about at Tech is we've got a lady called Claire Jones from What 3 Words, who are a company that I think, if this really takes off, will completely change how kind of delivery and location is thought about. So I believe they've done this in Africa and the Middle East is where they've made a huge difference at the moment, but they're looking to do it over here, and emergency services have taken on. But the idea of What 3 Words is, rather than using traditional addresses, every I think it's 3 meters by 3 meters squared is aligned to 3 words. So it could be table, microphone, bottle, and that's where we currently are. And so you wouldn't need the address anymore. You would just say, send it to table, microphone, bottle, and that's the 3 words that came to my mind. But I think, they're seeing it with emergency services, that if you're, say, out in a large wooded area or wherever it might be, where there isn't a postcode, there isn't an address, and something happens, or you see a fire and you need to let them know, you can use What 3 Words. The same for, I think, delivery. There's a lot of fun examples of it at Glastonbury, or if you might be in the middle of a festival and you need that fix of your hangover food, you can tell Deliveroo, for example, these are the 3 words I'm at. And I think, again, that would make it a global delivery option that is
standardized.
So exciting. And actually that really redefines what, in the Western world in particular, we have known as addresses and location. And I think that is so exciting, looking at the kind of what technology can do if it does take off.
I think that point about taking off is really interesting as well. So What 3 Words seems to have just exploded out of nowhere and just really taken hold. Everything from pizza delivery through to mountain rescues. It's a really exciting movement, I suppose, and that could play major change to the world.
Absolutely. I think it's fascinating.
So are there any other thoughts, Rebecca or Poppy, about big challenges facing retailers at the moment?
I mean, I could add on a couple more to the supply chain.
Yeah, we could probably go on for a while.
We could. With the supply chain as well, JD.com and what's happening over in China is just phenomenal. They are actually using drones, and it's just so fascinating. So I think lessons from the East are certainly something to consider as well. And we actually have JD.com's corporate vice president, speaking at Tech as well. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the kind of things that he's going to say, and I guess what's on the map next for China. And
I think as well, though, we often debate, and especially when I chat to quite a lot of retailers over here, how much you can take from China. So I think we always look to China for like the latest innovations and kind of what's going on and what's new and exciting. However, obviously they have very different privacy laws and that side of things. So it is kind of being able to see what you can relate to in China and actually be able to apply over in Europe. And actually, Rebecca and I were talking about facial recognition as something the other day. So, and I think in China, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca, there's a story of some retailers that because your face is linked to your bank account, and more the high end retailers, they often won't let you in the store because through your face they know you can't afford some of the products, which a new take on customer experience and having the right customers in your store. But it's things like that I don't think that will ever become common practice, especially in the UK, US, and Europe. But I do think there are lessons to be learned about facial recognition in terms of maybe payment and that side of things. You're already seeing it on the iPhone that it's facial recognition and Apple Pay and all that kind of thing. So I think there are some things you can learn, but you often have to take some of it with a little bit of a pinch of salt.
I mean, there's huge debates at the moment in the UK as well. I think there's one of the police forces in the UK, I think it might be in Wales, that started trialling facial recognition as well. There's that's obviously sparked huge debates on whether it's infringing privacy too much. So that they're always quite interesting to hear as well, people's views on that.
And I think new and potentially disruptive technologies always spark this controversial argument that comes up. Everyone is very reluctant against it. Just think a few years ago when e-commerce first came out, there was very, very sort of standoffish behaviour around ordering something on the internet, putting your credit card in to this company you don't even know where they exist. It's like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
So the world does move on as well.
It does. We had Ed Connolly, the strategy director of John Lewis, in the other day, and I was interviewing him, and he
for the TechCast, right?
Yes, for the TechCast. Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about kind of new technologies and trials, and whether or not customers will adopt certain things, and that kind of creepy versus cool, and and one of the things that they're trying at Waitrose is delivery options where the driver goes into your house and puts it all in your fridge and or your cupboards. So again, you don't need to worry about being in there. And I asked him, I was like, how are customers reacting to this? And he said it's only a really small trial, something they're looking at whether or not they would be able to roll out across the country, but it's really positive, and it's increased the basket spend on all of those, or the majority of the customers. So I do think that retailers have got to keep trying these new things, and even if it feels slightly on the edge of kind of pushing the boundaries and what customers would expect, I think they've got to do it, because if it increases their basket size and customers are delighted by it, then why wouldn't you?
I think that is really interesting as well. In-home commerce is something we've got a speaker, Marcel, who's CEO of Hello Alfred, which is a kind of personal butler app.
Hello Alfred, I love it.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it. Okay.
Bringing the old with the new.
Exactly. So you hire a butler basically, and you can commission him or her to do whatever it is you want. A lot of these people are very time poor, so it's things like collecting their shopping, taking it back to their apartments, putting it in their fridges, etc. And she's actually partnering with CPGs like Diageo, and with people whose homes they're going into. Obviously, they give them permission to do that. They're testing out new kind of products on them as well, and then gathering data on them. And I think in-home commerce is really interesting, but it's not really that new. If you think about Internet of Things, things like Alexa, etc. You are already interacting with someone in the home. It's just not a person, so this is just, I guess, the next kind of stage of that. So I think this is really interesting. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think just going back a couple of minutes to what you were talking about, trying things out, Poppy, and it made me think about Sainsbury's, right, who have recently been in the press quite a bit for trying their checkout-less store using a mobile phone to scan and go, right? And they've just stopped that trial. It's been going for, I think, 4 or 5 months. And it seemed to attract quite a bit of negative sentiment. My view is to actually cheer them on. Because they're trying something. They're trying to work out things. I bet they'll have learned a huge amount through doing that trial in just one store for just a few months.
Yeah.
And they can take that and learn from it. One of the key takeaways for them was that consumers weren't ready. So, great. Let's go back to the drawing board. How can we onboard people better? How can we train them better? How can we offer a transition period and all that? And they'll come back fighting, I'm sure, with that same concept in version 2, so to speak. Yeah. So absolutely, it's so important to be trying things out in our continually evolving world.
And I think those that aren't are the ones not surviving.
Yeah.
Right? So you see, I feel like there's a new retail casualty every day in those that, and it's usually those that aren't keeping up or being innovative. And you know what? You're right. You have to cheer retailers on for trying things, because for every one that fails, there might be 2 that are working, and it just then kind of becomes mainstream. But we'll have to make sure we ask Clodagh at Tech about that. So their chief digital officer is coming, so I'll have to ask what the learnings were from the cashless store.
I'll look forward to hearing that. I mean, a recent episode of the Retail Transformation Show, I had Ian Shepherd on. I think it was episode 46, and I'll put the link to that in the show notes. But Ian had a very good point around this fear of failure that so many retailers exhibit, and the consequences of failing, whether real or perceived, can really hold people back. And I think that's a really important point to be considering as we think about trials, think about new technologies, new changing trends and habits and so on. It's so important to be able to accept that failure, but also expect it as well. So accept and expect.
Absolutely. And actually, it's interesting picking up on your point about Sainsbury's cashless store, but kind of trying new things. I think that the store is something really interesting to talk about when it comes to transformation and technology, because it's a really great place for retailers to meet their customers. But I think sometimes they can be a bit nervous about kind of adding tech in or trying different things. So I think actually the store is one of the key things that we're focusing on at Tech, and you've probably got a couple of really good examples or things that you've been hearing in that space.
I do, but also I think it's important to note that stores aren't just for kind of like connecting with your customer on a personal basis. They are actually, I mean, still 90% of retail sales still happen in store as well. So they are a massive, massive part of retail still. So I think it's obviously really important to kind of show how tech can be used there and to kind of draw insights from customers and really connect with them as well, just because it is a massive business opportunity as well, obviously.
Absolutely. So powerful.
Absolutely. So we've got a speaker from Rafa who is going to be talking about community-centric retail. Obviously, Rafa is really well known for having this massive tribe of really loyal followers, customers. I don't know how you want to describe. But
we've got one downstairs from our office, and every morning you see all the cyclists there. I mean, it's a fabulous community, and they use their space well, don't they?
Absolutely. And I mean, that's similar to the likes of Lululemon having yoga classes in their stores as well. And I think just kind of bringing the concept to life and really kind of living the brand and creating this massive tribe of really kind of loyal customers is really important. And I think that is where stores can play a massive kind of point of difference to your strategy as well. So we're going to be hearing from the likes of her, which is going to be really interesting as well. Another session and another really interesting conversation that I've had is about using geolocation science and data in order to kind of strategize where you have stores, and so where to kind of open up stores if that's what you're planning to do, or reevaluate your whole store strategy based on the location of data around that particular area, but also to inform what merchandise you have in that store. So based on the immediate demographics of the customers in that area, what exactly they want, and really kind of localize your offering to that particular area as well, because I think that's going to be what the next part of kind of driving your store strategy and kind of making sure it's as customer centric and as kind of cost efficient. And
absolutely, and I see such a bright future given that a new store strategy. There's such a bright future for physical retail, in my opinion. It's just a challenge to be able to shift and evolve and transform your current estate into what's right for the future. So I'd like, just before we wrap up this episode, I'd like to just ask for your thoughts on one of the big topics when it comes to retail technology, and that is the concept of putting in tech for tech's sake. What are your thoughts? Discuss.
I think it's something that retailers need to consider quite a lot. I think it's that real fine line between giving customers what they want versus putting something in that customers don't quite know they want it yet. So I remember something Steve Jobs said was, no customer ever thought that they wanted the iPod, but look at how that's taken off and kind of the iterations of it, and the fact that it's music's on everyone's phone. There is a lot of thinking, and actually what we've talked about in terms of trial and error that needs to be done. It's about failing fast if stuff's not working. But I do think retailers and actually technology companies need to be really considered in where they're investing their money. So we've seen some failures, and I think kind of one that springs to mind is the likes of Google Glass, right? All the hype, I think we all thought everyone was going to be walking around with these glasses and seeing everything in their eye and all sorts, and actually that didn't really take off. And I think the other thing...
It's interesting because augmented reality has actually taken off, which is kind of, I suppose, inspired by Google Glass. So a lot of the learnings, I suppose, have evolved and through into... what is it, Pokemon Go and things like that we're now seeing. Maybe
they were just too ahead of their time in terms of the glasses, and they just needed to take a step back. And
Google Glass 2 coming out soon.
And I think my other final thought on this is, I don't know, maybe I'm sitting on the fence on a lot of Internet of Things ideas. So I think there's, I've had a lot of conversations, especially to tech, around putting tech in for the convenience of customers and customers not having to think about what they're doing, and whether or not your hairdryer, for example, ends up being connected to your devices, and by the amount of times I switch my hairdryer on, it will know that I'm about to run out of shampoo and a whole new bottle of shampoo will arrive at my door the next day. I don't know if I think that's the future, and maybe I'm being a little bit naive, but I'm not sure that I will need my Alexa or my device or whatever it is to get me a new bottle of shampoo, or the same on my dishwasher if that's connected. I kind of think I'm still going to have a need for grocery shopping, whether I do that online or go in the store. And quite frankly, putting a bottle of shampoo or a new thing of dishwasher tablets into my trolley is not, it's not saving me time. And I think there's a lot of investment going there. So I don't know, maybe I'll eat my words, and in 2 years' time, everything I have will be just delivered on the daily, depending on how often my devices or different things have been used. But I'm a bit sceptical on that.
I have to agree with you. If you think about light switches, I'm a bit sceptical. I don't have a problem with turning on a light switch.
No, yeah.
But I could spend a few hours setting it all up with a whole load of rules and automation rules that it's fun.
And on the same vein, right? If your light bulb goes out, if because Alexa's it's not been connected and you've just not had a new light bulb delivered the day before, it's probably not the end of the world to pop out and have to buy another light bulb. And let's see, I might eat my words, and there might be a lot of listeners laughing, thinking that I'm a little old-fashioned in my thinking.
So if you're listening in the future and we are totally wrong, call us out.
Yeah, do.
We'd love to hear from you and remind us of this moment.
I was just going to say, on the flip side of that, I do think that kind of thing could be quite useful, and I can see that kind of becoming part of my life and me quite liking it, because I think if you are a bit time poor, or you want to spend your life doing less mundane things like shopping for shampoo, etc., I think I can see why that I could get quite excited by it. We've got a Roomba, which is one of the robot like vacuum cleaners.
Oh yeah,
and definitely would have time to go around the flat for 5 minutes, like cleaning with the normal, hoovering with the normal hoover. But it's just so convenient to just switch it on and just let it do its thing.
The other thing we've talked a lot about, and so this is where I might eat my words, is what I find fascinating is just how quickly technology can change what humans do. And I'm off to Rome after tech, so no one interrupt me. I'm staying in an Airbnb, and 5 years ago, I'm not sure if you told me I was going to go stay in someone's house when I went on a city break or on holiday that I'd believe you. And even vice versa, I've Airbnb'd my house. I'm not quite sure I would have been open to thinking that strangers would come and stay there. And I really think that it's so impressive how companies like Airbnb have changed what we do. I know they've been around for a bit longer, but the likes of Facebook, 15 years ago?
15 years, yeah.
Who would have known that social media would have changed how people do it? So maybe I might eat my words on the Internet of Things, and I'm just waiting for kind of that to be a next explosion. But I do think it's fascinating how quickly tech can change what we've all done for years.
Absolutely. In a similar vein, we were in Mexico in January, and we did Airbnb experiences. They have rolled that out, I think it was last year, so it's still fairly new, but we were in this lovely Mexican lady's house. We were in her kitchen, a group of us with some people that we met over from the States as well, and she showed us how to make these amazing salsas. And again, it was kind of a bit of a moment like, wow, like actually when you think about it, this is quite mad that we've being connected in this amazing way through technology, and we've gained these new experiences that we never would have had before, and it's quite amazing. I do think that the speed with which humans are kind of adapting to that change and acceleration in technology is really interesting as well. We've also got a really cool speaker at Tech who is head of design for Starship Technologies, and his session is going to be all around kind of how humans are responding to these robots, because they're basically robots that are involved in the final mile. And it's completely, the robot comes to you, you have a code, you put it in and you open it up and it delivers things right to your front door, and there's no human interaction. And so his whole thing is kind of, studying human responses to that, and kind of, I just think it's fascinating. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's gonna say about that, obviously based on the research that they've done. But it's exciting.
That sounds fascinating, yeah.
To be quite frank with you, I'm very excited for, the next coming years, just to see what else is gonna come out of it. And actually, Poppie and I were chatting earlier about femtech and the likes of kind of, Clue app, which women can use to like track their periods and stuff as well. And then, take that one step further, Natural Cycles, which is an app where you can, depending on your, set where you are, if you want to plan a pregnancy, you can put it to that setting, or prevent, and you take your temperature every morning, you put it into the app. There's an algorithm that obviously gets more developed the more data that you put in, and it's just amazing that women are actually using this. It's FDA approved as well, so women are actually using this instead of, the pill, which has its issues. I just think it's amazing. It's very empowering. It's all. I'm very excited about it. As you can tell, I've blabbered on for the past couple of minutes, but yeah, it's very exciting.
Well, I think there's a huge number of changes which are inevitably happening in our world, and it is an exciting time. Can be scary at times, and one thing is for sure, it's a lot of hard work to adapt, but you must adapt, right? Yeah. We've seen, as you hinted, plenty of times what happens if you don't adapt. So it must be absolutely critical to make that transformation happen. So let's wrap up this conversation here. We've got tech just around the corner. You can find out more. It's happening, 2nd and 3rd of October in London?
Yeah, and in a venue called Printworks.
Sounds very nice.
Well, you say it sounds nice. We will make it lovely, but it is, it's an printing factory. And so...
and that's a sign of changing times.
Exactly, right? Yeah, absolutely. If there's a more apt venue, then it's that one.
Super. So everyone can find out more at tech-festival.com, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And how can people get in touch with you guys as well?
So if they go on tech-festival.com, there's email addresses and phone numbers all on there for people to get in touch with us. Fantastic. And if you don't mind, we can put our email addresses in your show notes as well.
Super. That sounds great.
Great.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you
for having us.
Thanks.
Lots of ideas and lots of thoughts in that conversation. I hope you will agree. Is your head buzzing? Are you full of ideas? I hope so. Remember to head over to the show notes page where you can find out more about the concepts, the ideas and the innovations that I spoke about with Rebecca and Poppie there. You can find those show notes at ob&co.uk/47. And are you going to be going to Tech, the event, 2nd and 3rd of October in London, and you can find out a whole lot more at tech-festival.com, including all of those amazing speakers that you'll have heard a little snippet about today. If you've enjoyed today's show, then do remember to hit subscribe and make sure you get your weekly dose of retail transformation going straight into your head. And if you'd like to keep up with the latest news about retail transformation, do remember to sign up for my retail transformation briefing. You can find out more and sign up for free over at ob&co.uk/briefing. All that remains to say is have a great week, and I will catch you next time.